Hello and welcome. This is View from the Top. I'm Modele Sharafa Yusuf and I'm delighted that you could join us. Perhaps best known as former Director General of the National Orientation Agency and the Nigerian Television Authority, veteran broadcaster Dr. Tony Iredia is also a political analyst, lawyer and public administrator. A quintessential man of many parts, Dr. Iredia also served as spokesman of the defunct National Electoral Commission, the electoral body which conducted what is generally regarded as freest and fairest election in Nigeria, that of June 12, 1993. Dr. Iredia kindly joins me today, and I want to thank him very much. Thank you, Dr. Iredia.
Thank you.
We will be discussing elections, media practice, and the rule of law in Nigeria. But before we launch into our conversation, here's a brief biography. Dr. Iredia attended Loyola College and the Universities of Ibadan, London, Benin, Nsukka, and Abuja, from where he obtained certificates in communication, journalism, and management, in addition to 2 bachelor's, 1 master's, and 2 doctorate degrees. In the 1985-86 session, he was the best graduating student in public law and also best graduating student in business law at the University of Ibadan. He began his media career as a reporter with the Midwest Television, now NTA Benin, and in 1987, he was deployed to the defunct National Electoral Commission as Director of Public Affairs. He was later seconded by the Nigerian government to ECOWAS to serve as technical expert on elections and coordinator of public broadcasts, of political broadcasts for the first post-Civil War elections in Liberia. That was in 1997. Dr. Iredia was DG, NOA, and NTA and has won many laurels. They include the Nelson Mandela Public Service Leadership Prize, the Nigerian Media Merit Award, and the Lifetime Achievement Award for Electronic Media Development. He's also a multiple-star Paul Harris Fellow of Rotary International and an officer of the Order of the Niger. Dr. Iredia, thank you again for joining me. It is political season, and INEC is being closely watched by the electorate and by the politicians. You were the Director of Public Affairs for the then National Electoral Commission. When the June 1993 elections were annulled, that election was adjudged the freest and fairest elections held in Nigeria so far. What conditions made that happen? And do you reckon INEC can replicate that these days?
Well, I think it was just a determination to succeed. I remember very well that the chairman of the body at that time, Professor Humphrey Mosu, kept reminding us that the president had promised to give any of us in that team national honors if we did well. And he was anxious to make history. I think he was quite a man with a lot of ebullience. And so we were all working along that direction. He was quite an energetic personality who believed that there ought to be a unity of direction and, in fact, uniformity in operating procedures. So somehow we're working like a team. And many of the elections that were done before June 12 were quite successful. And so we were thinking that it was going to be one success after the other until that climax of June 12 that was annulled. So I would say determination and then the will to succeed.
Talking about history, we all have our theories, but to this day, not many people know the real reason for the June 12 annulment. One of the reasons given was that the military hierarchy was not comfortable with an Abiola presidency. Do you think if Bashir Tofa had won that elections, the elections would have, the results would have been announced?
Sometimes I always think in a very queer manner that those who annulled the election probably did not even know why they did. Because I don't know why they did. All the reasons given to me didn't make any sense. The real reason of the annulment will get to be known someday. I don't think I know the reason.
What's your theory?
I just think it was some military collusion. I don't know. I don't understand it. I saw quite a lot of openness, so much openness, and if the intention was to do some hanky-panky thing, why was the openness allowed from that very beginning? I didn't understand why the end was allowed to be scuttled that way. I think somebody just brought discredit to government. That's the way I look at it. It's an unfortunate thing, and it's a pain for those of us
somebody
who
or the
worked
leadership.
closely. I think so, a group of people. I don't think it's just, what is leadership? Leadership is everywhere. You see, sometimes when we talk about people in power and authority and we say they don't want to live there, who are they? Does the governor of Central Bank want to leave? Does the Inspector General of Police want to leave? Does the Chief of Army Staff want to leave? Do the people who are in the corridors of power, do they want to leave? It's not just about president, it's not just about the headship. It's about people who are comfortable in their positions. They don't want to leave because ours is a very difficult nation. We're developing. There are too many physical challenges. You know, sometimes you leave your house, you can only do one thing because at the end of it, you're so tired from either congestion, bad roads, from all kinds of things. So really, a lot of people who are privileged don't ever want to lose that privilege. So my theory has always been that persons who surround the headship are themselves as guilty as the head who eventually takes vicarious liability for everything that goes wrong.
Seeing how things eventually turned out, do you regret NEC's decision not to release the final results? After all, the law setting up NEC at that time had said no court should interfere, no court could interfere in your activities, and that the commission was free to ignore any court ruling.
What I think happened really is that when the court said we should not announce results, we stopped. But earlier, the same court had said we should not hold election. We didn't stop. We didn't obey the court. The reason was because the first instruction, government did not support the courts. The second instruction, government was no longer with us. So going to disobey at that point was going to be personal jeopardy. You are just going to give yourself undue problems because the Attorney General, who had argued that NEC was independent and court was not allowed to interfere when we disobeyed the first order that says don't hold election, the same Attorney General was the one who now advised don't announce the result because I've said so. And we're wondering which court. It's not the same court you say cannot give us instructions. Yes.
Who determines national interest?
That's the question. You have to ask yourself that question. And you are determining national interest because you are safe in your home. Right? If you were working with us, would you determine national interest along the same pattern that you have tried to do now? It's a question that if you ask yourself, you find an answer, you place yourself in the position that other people are, and then you ask yourself, are we really doing what is right? There's a limit. For me, what I thought, or what I did, for which I take a lot of credit, personal credit, is that when I was asked to stop announcing the results, I threw in the towel. I did not only stop announcing results, I abandoned the job. And when I was called back to announce other things, I refused.
The last major exercise undertaken by INEC was the Ekiti state governorship elections. Briefly, and on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the conduct of INEC in those elections?
Well, honestly, I am one of those persons that has been full of criticisms of INEC. The reason being because I probably expected far too much that I'm saying, considering the quality of persons who are in INEC today. I had thought that really we got it right to have those very strong characters. But somehow I get so put off by the basic administrative errors. Things like election materials didn't get to police stations that are behind even the commission. You know, things like that. Lateness of election materials, lateness of election personnel, little things like that. And I got put away by the fact that INEC will be overwhelmed by a nationwide election, which is understandable. It will also be overwhelmed by election in one state, which becomes questionable. Then it will be overwhelmed by election in one local government. Then something is wrong. And that's, to me, I think is beyond the Electoral Commission. I've always looked forward to the present commission computerizing the system, insisting that we must do electronic voting. Why
wouldn't politicians allow electronic voting? Because it seems that it's the politicians that are scuttling.
Yeah, but I think INEC should let the whole nation know that the politicians are the ones scuttling it. Because they are the ones. Because in electronic voting, you can rig. I just get sorry for the people who are in INEC. Look, the electoral law says clearly that people should not campaign before 90 days to the election. What do you want INEC to do now?
When everybody's on the campaign trail.
People were campaigning from the day they won the first election. So what do you want INEC to do?
What can INEC do? And how can we as a people say, you know, this is not right? And this goes beyond just the elections. We know that electronic voting will help the system. Well, almost everybody knows that, except those who have something to gain by not allowing it. We know that, why can't we as a people insist that this is what we want?
Well, let's put it like this. You must realize that there are two sets of Nigerians. The first active, aggressive minority that is always ever wanting to be in office. Then you have the very docile majority that just feels that, look, I don't want any problem for myself. And that's why sometimes so many bizarre things are done in Nigeria. And against the backdrop, after 2 weeks, people will forget. Or people will leave it, let it go. So it's about the level of capacity to claim your rights.
You are one of the people who were suspicious of the motives behind the new polling stations created by INEC, an idea which has now been set aside by the Senate. Professor Ojegai insists that INEC meant well. Could INEC have done a better job of explaining the idea to the people, or it was just a bad idea?
I just think the timing is not right. And I just also realized that this nation is too large for you to make ad hoc information and believe it has gone down the line. There were basic contradictions as far as we were concerned. And I'm, like you rightly pointed, I'm one of those who had to write to say this is not right. My reason is simple. INEC has done so many elections. And it has now come to say that for you to vote, you must have the permanent voter's card. INEC knows, you know, I know, that those who are registered will not find that permanent voter's card. The number of people that will find it will not be up to half the people that really registered. Good. In which case, INEC is not expecting up to the number of people that used to vote. Why is it increasing polling units under the ground that it will have too many people? From where? Where are the people going to come from? The number of registered voters will not be more than 500 per polling unit if we are using the old polling units. As far back as our own days, in 1991-92, we had secured that 500 voters maximum in any polling unit. So there are many things wrong with our elections.
We must take a break now. We ask that you please join us again after the break.